Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar, Building a Better BOI, Managing the Bill of Information with ProductCenter Nexa PLM. My name is Sarah Gariano, Product Marketing at Essig PLM. Joining me today, we have Bill Gilchrist, Hunter Erfman, and Matt Throm of our professional services team. To start off the webinar, Bill will provide an overview of ProductCenter Nexa and how ProductCenter Nexa manages the bill of information. Hunter and Matt will then demonstrate building the bill of information with ProductCenter Nexa and our CAD connectors for Nexa. If you have any questions, please use the chat panel and we will answer your questions at the end. With that, I'll pass it over to Bill to start the webinar. Bill?
Thank you, Sarah. So welcome, everyone. Like Sarah mentioned, this is Building a Better BOI, and BOI is just an acronym that we use internally and have for quite a while at Essig PLM, Bill of Information. Not to be confused with the bill of material. So I'll explain that a little bit in a minute. I'm just going to soften the presentation up with some slides, and then we really want to see Hunter and Matt actually demo the software. So I'll try to make this quick but informative. So what is the bill of information? ProductCenter Nexa BOI data model. I'll kind of let you know what's behind the scenes a little bit. The benefits, why is this important to me? And then most importantly, the demo. And then of course, Q&A. So there should be about 15 minutes at the end of this for Q&A. So the bill of information, it's basically a comprehensive list of everything that you build, ship, and support, right? So you have design data, and this little chart here is showing you my CAD designers might design something, then that flows into bill of material data. So can I push a BOM from my CAD design into Nexa? Absolutely. And then from there, I might need work instructions, QA inspections, manufacturing specs, and the list goes on. Of course, this is just a partial list. So every time you make a change to any one of those things, it can cascade down or even up, right? So you want to have all of that stuff related, and relationships are probably the core central theme, or certainly one of the primary columns of the ProductCenter Nexa suite of technologies that's in there, keeping that stuff related so we can go and if we change any one thing, we can be informed and see how it might affect other things. So again, services, R&D, engineering, quality, manufacturing. We didn't include sales or marketing. You can get in field service. You can add it on and on to this. But what you want to have is this core central bill of information controlled and managed and maintained in ProductCenter Nexa, to which all of these departments can get in and access that the information that, again, you use to build, support, and service your products. So typical data sets, such as marketing data, ECAD data, MCAD data, the list goes on and on. What we want to do is slowly get those companies or those departments within our company or our divisions, because multiple divisions is now much more common, put it into this black box, this BOI framework, which is ProductCenter Nexa. And then what I want to be able to do is coalesce that and put it out into the appropriate bill of information. So manufacturing might be very interested in drawings and manufacturing specifications, whereas I might have product configurations and SKUs and process automation. So there's different types of bills of information you could assemble, coalesce, and allow access to. All of this stuff is basically permission controlled. So because it's in this black box, this framework, if you're not supposed to think that anybody that has access to ProductCenter Nexa can go in and access any piece of information. So that's a big part of the discussion in the implementation. Who should be able to view, who should be able to author, who should not be able to view at all? Those types of questions are always in the background. So, and Hunter will speak to that a little bit. So when we go into a customer, in my experience, we see all sorts of data sources, right? So there's legacy databases. There's actually still paper, believe it or not, removable drives, of course, other databases which you don't want to usurp necessarily. So ProductCenter is not an ERP. It's not a QMS database. It could be, but often companies want to work with those databases. So we want to have bi-directional compatibility with them. And things like a good old Excel that's never going away, and it's certainly CAD. So Matt is going to show you the CAD interface for both SolidWorks and Creo today, but we also support Autodesk and Nexa, so there's a few other ones there. But the important thing is, you know, I don't want to take the tools that my users use out. If they want to continue to use Excel, of course, and they're always going to, or Word, or SolidWorks, I need to be able to have that seamlessly integrated to Nexa for both inbound and outbound operations. So there's a lot of different data sources that are typically still candidates. It's often the case where you want to take things from multiple data sources, even Windows directories, put it into one central area so we can all look at sort of one source of the truth, right? So this particular slide here comes from a particular customer that is using ERP, a specific ERP system, and they did a little bit differently. They wanted to take ERP, they will get a product or a project number that gets pushed into Nexa as a customer order. So that's the top level item. So they're leading off with their ERP system. Often we see a ground up, not necessarily ERP right to ProductCenter Nexa. But in this case, this particular customer said ERP will seed the top level item in ProductCenter Nexa. From there, we then want to use the appropriate clients and ProductCenter Nexa, such as CAD or maybe a quality management database, to push in things like certificates, quotations, purchase orders. So when they go to a customer order in Nexa, there's also the same customer order is in their ERP system, but they can see how all the information, the supporting documentation, for example, and processes are related, right? So they can then maintain the customer order here, because you wouldn't expect to see all of this rich information, CAD and PDFs and Inventor and photographs even. That might not exist and probably does not exist in your ERP system, but it certainly is vital in supporting, designing, and maintaining your product. So that's why they want to go in. This particular customer example had customer order is something that we want to control in ProductCenter Nexa, then communicate to and from our ERP system as things change, specifically revisions. So again, the item in this particular slide is what you build, support, ship, those types of things there. Correspondence, drawings, data sheets, all of that rich information. The blue lines are meant to represent relationships. So when Hunter starts his presentation very shortly here, he's going to talk about how things are linked or how they're related. And that is very, very important. How easy is it to create, maintain those relationships? Once I have those relationships, you can see how it'd be very, very easy to tailor a report. Show me all the active ECOs or ECRs against this particular product or part item. Show me just the technical manual. Show me all the information. So all of that stuff, once it's related, supports the bill of information, and then I can start to report on it. So we'll show you a little bit of that. So when we have products, of course, we have assemblies, sub-assemblies, parts, right? So basic CAD management is often where this stuff, the genesis of information comes from. But to that, then I might have requirements, marketing, technical bulletins. So as important as CAD is, and sometimes we get very myopic and think about that as the be all end all, that's only the beginning. There's all of this other rich information that goes and supports, again, what it is that you build, ship, and service once it's out in the real world there. So the bill of information, I want to be able to go to one software and have all of this information, and that's ProductCenter Nexa, which we're going to show you here. This here, so basically, if we had to put a layer as to how this is typically implemented, this is often reversed or modified, but in general, document management, then we go to design integration. Hey, can I start to get my CAD tools talking to and from my assemblies, my parts, my drawings? So design integration into ProductCenter Nexa. From there, we go to configuration control. So you want to have release management, technical specifications, DFMEAs, all of that stuff you might want to have related. Compliance, very, very important. I can't release a part unless you show me the compliance certificate related to the part. So you want to get some configuration control in place there. Then change management, which is workflow. Hunter will show you some of that today. That deserves its own deep dive in a presentation probably like this in a future date. But change management, think of workflow. Who said who initiated the ECO, who signed off on the ECO, had the stakeholders reviewed the ECO and given their blessing to it. So we want to have all that auditability in a workflow process. And then finally, enterprise integration, which is very, very important. Enterprise integration, basically, if I want to talk to my QMS system, my ERP system, hey, I made a new revision, the ECO passed, I went from A to B. Can I push the B information to my ERP system automatically? And vice versa, can I also pull stuff from my ERP system? So that gets into sort of that ERP and enterprise, talking to other systems within your enterprise. So again, just another, if we look at the center, document management, then design integration, configuration control, change management. This slide is really meant for you to think if I'm implementing this, if I don't have ProductCenter Nexa currently, some of you already do, but what's the typical implementation process, or how does it typically march forward? That said, this is often changed. So I said enterprise integration, the last 2 slides ago, I said that the company started off with this. They wanted to push from ERP into Nexa and then hang all of these supporting documents off of that. So we would talk to you about, what order you should go in, what most makes sense to your particular business situation. One slide for enterprise integration, of course, we have HR, product materials, sales, factory. There's all sorts of different systems out there. We have a lot of experience integrating with many of them, including SAP and Epicor, to name a few. But we want to be able to talk to you and establish, bi-directionality as it, suits your needs. So now one customer is the same as the other. Some just want to push from their, the ProductCenter Nexa to the ERP system, for example. Some want to pull from ERP to ProductCenter Nexa, and then the third situation is a bi-directionality. So it warrants a much deeper discussion, but the point is here, in order to have, a complete holistic view of your, a good bill of information, you're going to need to talk to other systems. So one more slide after this. I won't read these one by one, but I'll point out a few of the big ones. So legal aspects addressed. We put that bullet in there because we have seen systems or situations at our customer where they need, I need a whole bunch of information immediately out of Nexa PLM or ProductCenter. How can I do that? So a lot of times that has to do with litigation, or a lawyer needs to see all the drawings and the supporting information, and not just the most current version of it, right? I need it from 3 years back. We have a lawsuit or something of that nature. Can you show me exactly what was released, what was shipped, what was it built to? So having all of that auditability and traceability is very, very important. And the bill of information is designed to support exactly that. Not just your current and most latest, but any point in time. So the design history becomes very, very important when you're talking about bill of information. So, and of course, the ability to leverage business process decisions, such as workflows and ECRs and ECOs within your company. So on to the demo. I'm going to hand it off to Hunter. Hunter is in Cincinnati, Ohio. Hunter and Matt is in Orlando, Florida today, and they're both talking to the AWS cloud. So ProductCenter Nexa is installed in the cloud. So just to give you a little bit of visibility as a topology here. So this is a real live demo in a cloud environment. Most customers want to at least investigate that. We're seeing less and less on-prem. We can talk more about that later. But Hunter is going to talk about this Dremel. He's going to use that as an example, and then he's going to go in and show you things about the linking, right? So we have this Dremel product. There is CAD information, SolidWorks and Creo, right? So we have 2 different CAD systems supporting this one product at today's company. And in addition to that, we also have certificates and marketing material and specifications, and on it goes, to support the bill of information regarding this Dremel. So with that, I will digress. I will turn it over to Hunter, and Hunter, have at it.
All righty, thank you, Bill. So share my screen here. So you should see the ProductCenter Nexa login screen. So I'm going to go ahead and get logged in. And when I'm logged in, what I want to do is at the top here, I have these different features within Nexa, these different tabs, and I'm going to work my way over till I get to administration. But to begin, I'm going to start on the desktop tab. So the desktop tab within Nexa, you can think of as a location within Nexa to keep frequently accessed files or sets of information to display here. And so before I get into the Dremel project here, just to show some of the different items or files that we'll see in Nexa, if I select new here, so we're going to be focusing on the project. So we'll see part items and file items that exist within this Dremel project. And then later on in the demonstration, I'll create a workflow and we'll see a new SolidWorks assembly be pushed through that workflow. So to start off on this Dremel tool project, if you notice over to the right as I'm selected here, I have my item information. So this set of information like title, name, and I can definitely configure this to show a different set of properties or information. But within this item information window, I also can see version history. So if I ever need to go back to see what was done to a previous, revision or generation, I have that information available here. Moving on to the links. So the items that are linked to this Dremel project, things that are related, you could see things like if I had any electrical components, emails, or in this case, I have some marketing information, 2 bill of materials here for the mechanical components, and then a specification document. So if I want to quickly access the specification document to view it, what I can do is I can right click and view that file, and it'll open up in my browser up at the top there. So I can view that, download it, print it off, and do what I need with this specification document. So I can build out this set of links and configure this a bit further if I want to start creating relationships to, a different set of information. But within here, I can also see where used, things like permissions. So group permissions, who can do what with this project, read, write, delete, and notify. With group permissions, I can also view the user permissions for this project. And so with this project and the items that are linked to it, I'm going to go over to the left-hand side here and just show this in more of a hierarchical fashion. So I can drill down on the first level and we'll start to see some of those items that are linked to this project. So the first one we see here is this bill of material item. So the top level assembly in this SolidWorks Dremel tool. So if I select on that, again, I have my item information window to where I can see that set of property information, again, with the versions, the item history for this Dremel tool, and the items that are linked to this Dremel tool that are specific to this bill of material item here. So a lot more information shown here when it comes to the links for this item, things like the actual physical CAD drawing for this Dremel tool, or the physical file for the assembly, even a change order that this was associated to, contractor information, data sheets. There's all sorts of things in here, PNR, product specifications, quality documents, all sorts of things that are linked to this bill of material item that go into the creation of this project as a whole. So I can go down the list here and go to where used. I can see where this, is being used within Nexa. On this bill of material item, I even have a bill of material tab to where I can see things like quantity, fine numbers, and I can go into here. And if I want to check this out, maybe I want to add something like a non-modeled component, paint, glue, whatever it is, I can go in and I can add that to this bill of material. And of course, there's permissions on this item as well, group permissions and user permissions. So there's other information, other mechanical components that are associated in this Dremel project, like this one here. So this is an assembly that has 2 purchased components. So these purchased components also have their own form and set of property information. And you can see at the bottom here, the part type. This is a purchased mechanical component. So with this component here, again, I still have my versions, my links, but in this case, I may have, something like a vendor associated to this purchased component that goes into the creation of this assembly here. And again, there's in the first level of the project, there's the specification document, price list calculation, Excel document. And if I expand on the bill of material item here and go a level deeper, I can see the subcomponents, the subassembly, and even that CAD file in a hierarchy now. And so those PDFs, all those documents are listed down below that I can right click and view. I can check them out, make changes if I need. And so the first one here, this component, I'm going to expand here. So just to go a level deeper, I can see that actual physical CAD file for that component. details on this component, and I even have a thumbnail image that I can quickly get to and view if I want to see, just a quick glance at, what component I'm looking at. So I have that there. Linked to this part item for this component, I also have things like maybe field service. So I have history on, field service information on these components. This one in particular, a image of a broken Dremel case. So I have that history kept with this component. So all sorts of links and sets of information that I can display with my part items, my project items, CAD items. And just to go another level deeper into this sub-assembly, I'll expand this level here. I can see that SolidWorks assembly here. Linked to this, I also have test results. So I can start creating links. I have all these different sets of links that are, specific to file items or part items that I can create and configure. So with all this information that I've expanded here, what I want to do is go a little bit deeper and just expand everything. So I'm going to right click on this project item at the top and just do an expand all. So I'm starting to expand all of this information, everything that goes into the creation of this Dremel tool, I've now expanded. So I have this over in this window. I can scroll down and just sort through this information and just, a quick glance at everything so far that I have configured into this project that goes into the creation of this Dremel. One thing that I might want to do is select on the top level item. Maybe I want to export this into an Excel doc. I can select on that top level item. Oops, misclicked there. Select all of these items and quickly export this to an Excel doc. So if I do that, it's going to automatically take that into this Excel doc that I can open up and I can view the information. So it'll export all that property information at the top there, name, revision, status, title, class. So I can see the classification that these different components and sets of information exist in. So I'm going to quickly minimize that there. And so you can imagine as I'm working through this Dremel project, all these part items, the CAD items, there's lots of stuff that go into that, when it comes to release management and just checking those items out. So now I'm going to get to my work tab. So I have some components checked out. So this is where in this tab, I can see the items that I'm working on. I have these checked out. Nobody else can check these out or make changes to it. But again, when it comes to my work list, so here I can see, so within the work list with ProductCenter Nexa, as I'm working on engineering change orders or whatever workflow it is, I'm assigned tasks. And with those tasks, they're put into my work list that I can see and I can start working on them. So depending on how I have my workflow set up, who's the assignee on what activity, it'll be placed into my work list. And we'll see that later on in the demonstration as I actually create an ECO. But just moving on to the next tab, the claimable work. So tasks can be sent to a group of people, and then individuals within that group can then claim that task. So whatever activity or wherever it's at, a user can right click and claim that and put that into their work list and begin doing their work on that, specific task. And we'll see that later on, but continuing down the tabs here for my queries. So searching in Nexa, I have these specific properties or attributes that make searching very user-friendly. I can search on specific searching conditions, begins with, ends with, contains. In this case, just for an example, if I'm looking for something within my Dremel project, I know the part number begins with 500, so I can run a search on that. Display everything that begins in the name 500. I can fine tune this a bit more, and maybe I'm looking for something related or contains or begins with the title of motor. I can display that information, right click, place it on my desktop, and just keep it in that location till I'm done with my work, or check out, view the file, do what I need to do with this specific component or whatever I'm searching for. Just to add on to that, when it comes to searching, there are specific searches that I can save CAD files, compliance, all sorts of different searches that I might frequently run that I can have saved to Nexa. So I can search on, again, items, processes, or even activities that exist within ProductCenter Nexa. So just continuing on to my reports, I want to go back to the desktop just so I can show this top level project item. So I know I didn't expand all, I exported all the information to an Excel doc, but what I can also do is right click on this and go to my reports and kind of have Nexa push this out in a bill of information report. So I'll select on that report and I'll run it. It will display in this form that I can download, print this off, send it in an email. So all of the stuff that I expanded earlier, you can see in a now in a report fashion. So if I scroll down here, everything that goes into the creation of that Dremel is listed in this report. There are other types of reports that I can run in Nexa. So you see a links report. So I'm going to go back again to the desktop, show that bill of material item that has a lot of links, a lot more links than the project that I'll right click and also run a report on. This time, I have different sets of reports configured for my bill of material items. I can do a cost roll-up report, multi-level report, but I want to quickly do a links report. So as I'm talking about linking and all the relationships that are created, if I run a links report on that bill of material item, it's a little bit more cleaned up. So I can see data sheets that are linked to that bill of material, the CAD drawing, the quality documents, of course, the actual physical CAD file, then the components that are used within this assembly, and of course, the change order that it was associated to. So all sorts of reports that I can run within Nexa when it comes to my different types of items. Pushing on to the classes. So when it comes to classes, all of the items that I've shown you exist in a specific bucket or classification within Nexa. So the project item that I have, if I drill down on my projects and product lines, that Dremel tool project exists in this specific classification. And there's other product lines that I might have like video or motor. So those exist in that specific bucket. So for my CAD items, I'll go to drill down to CMS files, engineering, my mechanical class, and underneath my mechanical class, I have my assemblies, my drawings, ITAR parts, mechanical library, my actual part items here. So you can imagine as a company, as you're working through your class structure, you would build this out to what your company needs and just fine tune this and start building out these specific buckets where you want to place your information. So moving on to administration, I'm not going to go too deep into the administration, but everything that you saw when I was going through the forms, the class structure, even reports to the workflows, all of that is configured within this administration tab. So this is where I see all my administration features. Again, the classes, the configured forms for the items that I've shown, the different sets of groups or link types that are created within Nexa. All this information and all that stuff can be done here. So when it comes to permissions, not all users will have access to this administration tab. So this is specific to a user and their set of permissions. One thing I will point to is this workflow processes. So I have many different workflows within this database that I'm working in. And the one I'm going to focus on is this ECO workflow. So what we're going to do is when I pass this over to Matt, Matt is going to create or store a new SolidWorks assembly. And with that assembly, I'm going to push it through this ECO or this workflow, and we're going to see it go through each activity all the way to a release state. And before I do that, what I want to do is I want to set a project up where I want to place that new SolidWorks assembly. So what I'm going to do is actually create a new project. And so what we're going to do is we're going to imagine that as a company, we're creating a new project for a Dremel, but this time this is going to be a cordless Dremel tool. And we'll give this a new part number here. Give it a title. So I can start filling out my property information based on how I have my form configured. And so right now you can see I'm placing this in this classification right now. I want to actually change that and point to my my product line tools classification. So just go to the top here, change my class, go to tools and hit OK. So I'm going to leave it like this for now. As I'm creating this, if I had information that already exists in Nexa, I could go in and start creating those links and adding items to this tab here, but I'm just going to continue through and save this. So again, we're beginning to create this cordless Dremel tool. We have a new part number. This is a new item. And what we want to do is pass this over to Matt so he can show the connectors for Nexa, store a new SolidWorks assembly, and I'll start creating those links and adding it to this project. So I'll stop here and pass it over.
All right, thanks, Hunter. Let me share my screen real quick. All right. So as Hunter said, we have this Dremel assembly in SolidWorks, and then we also have our Creo. We'll say that a contractor does all the tools we include with the Dremel, and they do that in Creo. So I'll store all this, and Hunter will show how that becomes one project. We can have a multi-CAD project that fills out that bill of information. For this demo, I'll start with Creo, but before I do, you can see that the operations are the same no matter what software you're using. There's no learning curve between the two. They've got the same functionality. They both are fully integrated and have this CAD Explorer. I won't get into that now, but a little later in the demo, I'll touch on that. But let me open Creo and I'll show a little bit of the functionality. I'll start off with the settings. This is what kind of fills out the bill of information. Is all anything that you want pushed from CAD to Nexa or vice versa goes through the settings. So some of the important ones are generating thumbnails, viewables for drawings. If we want to include drawings with store operations. So when we store this assembly, we will also store the drawings associated with the way we have it configured right now. In the next tab, we've got property mappings. So this is attributes or information from the CAD document that you want to push into Nexa or vice versa. This is fully configurable. You've got file title, description, and class ID. You can add stuff like material, weight, any information that you want pushed from CAD to Nexa or vice versa. This is bidirectional and you can set the direction of mapping, all that good stuff. So it's fully customizable. If I go to this store operation to store this assembly, this is the first time we're storing this assembly. It's never seen Nexa before. So I'll open up a screen showing all of the items that we're going to be storing. It'll show an icon that shows that they're all new documents with this green plus sign. We've got the assembly and 3 subcomponents. You can see tree view, list view of everything you're adding. At the bottom, you can see any drawings associated with this assembly. So this assembly does have a drawing that the connector can locate and associate. So when we store this, this drawing will already be a part of that bill of information. A link will be created from the assembly to the drawing so you can easily find it. Same goes for any family tables or configurations for parts. We've got multiple configurations that will be put in all at once and have their associated links. On the right-hand side, here is any information that we're pushing into Nexa or vice versa. We've got the class ID or class. We've got the title and the description. So everything in red, you can see that's a required field. If So if we want to make sure everyone's filling out a title to fill out that bill of information, if someone forgets to, it'll give you an error saying, hey, fill out a title. We need this information for the bill of information. And then once you add that, you can store the items. So this store operation, like I said before, it'll create all these data cards, store all the attributes, vault everything, create thumbnails and PDFs, and store that into Nexa, all with a click of a button, all while creating these links to fill out that bill of information. Once this is done, I'll touch on the work or the CAD Explorer. If I click on this tab, you can see these are the files that we currently have in session. You can see all of this information from the database within the CAD tool. So it provides a lot of visibility when you're working on parts. You can also add if you add any parameters or attributes that you want to be able to see, you can always add those later on. Like if we want to see who prepared or when it was prepared, we can add that. Anything we can that we have pushing into Nexa or vice versa, we can add to this. All right. Now I'll store this hierarchy. So the bill of material, I'll export it. So this assembly in 3 subcomponents. To do that, we just go to this button right here and export BOM. It'll put a file in our work folder, which I'll show the import tool later. It's a single web page, and you can import multiple BOMs and all that good stuff. But for right now, I'll switch over to SolidWorks and show SolidWorks as well. So let me open that. Here's our SolidWorks assembly. Like I said before, same look and feel. I will log in. After I'm logged in, I can show the Workplace Explorer. It'll show that all the files are new. Since there is nothing in the database for these parts as of yet, everything will show blank because there's no up-to-date information on these in the database. I think my screen share froze. Let me reshare. All right. So as you can see, the settings, the resource settings, property mappings are all the same layout. No learning curve when it comes to each individual connector. This Workplace Explorer, like I said before, everything will show new in session, and there's no information in the database as of yet. Once I store it, that will fill out. If I hit store, the same web page will, or the same page will pop up with the tree view, list view. At the bottom, it'll show all associated drawings. On the right-hand side, any attributes, the thumbnail, all of that good stuff. And it has the same functionality. It'll give us an error if anything in red is not filled out. It'll warn us and have us fill it out before we store. Same icons. If someone else has, say we were working on something, we checked it out and are only working on the top level, we could see if anyone's working on the subcomponents, it'd show an icon with a lock. If you're editing an existing component, there's an icon with a triangle that shows you're editing an existing assembly. So it does have all the visibility. If we were making changes to an existing, we could see different versions and all of that good stuff. Let me go ahead and store this. After this is stored, I'll show the Workplace Explorer. Once again, show that that's filled out. And then I'll export the BOM and I'll show the web page to import BOMs, show that functionality. And then I will also pass that back off to Hunter, and he will show how to incorporate both Creo and SolidWorks files into one assembly. Again, this is all of the attributes, all the vaulting, PDFs, viewables are being created at this time. storing associated drawings, finding those, creating PDFs. You can have this so it clears during the store operation, it will clear, or you can configure it to clear all files associated to this. That way your workstation is clear. There's no local outdated files or anything like that. And then, yeah, all of this is configurable. I think I might have lost network when I shared my or reshared my screen. So, all right, look, took a second because I think my network's a little unstable, but everything is stored now, and now I can export that BOM. Now, once this is completely done, oh, I misclicked. Apologize. All right, so I exported the BOM, and now I can go over to the web page. Once you log in, you can choose a file. You can choose to replace an existing bill of material or just add additional items. All levels are first level. For this, since it's a brand new assembly, I will first I'll do the cutting tool from Creo. It doesn't matter whether or not it's replace or additive because it's the first time we're seeing it, and we'll hit all levels. We can hit continue. It'll take us to the next page. Everything in green is a new item. Of course, everything's new, so everything is in green. If we hit import, it'll import everything, all the quantities and find numbers. It'll take us to this page saying everything has succeeded, and we can continue and add our second assembly as well, our bill of material. We'll do the same process, hit continue. Here we'll see all the parts for the Dremel tool, the sub-assembly and its components. Everything's in green because it's brand new, find numbers, quantity, and we can import this as well. Same process, and if we had even more assemblies, we could do them now, but at this point, I'll pass this back off to Hunter so he can take those two bill of materials and incorporate them into one project or bill of information.
Oops, sorry, I was on mute there. Thank you, Matt. So let's see. Share screen. There we go. So you should see my screen now. Let me hide that. So what you saw Matt do, store and import that new set of information for the SolidWorks assembly, the Creo assembly, and the bill of information. So you can see that now on my desktop. So just to make a note, so Matt and I are logged in as the same user. So that's why that's automatically populated here on my desktop. But what I want to do is, now that we have this information and I created this project, I want to start linking that information to this cordless Dremel tool project. So a few different ways that I can do that. I can check this out. I can search on those items and directly link them. But just to make this a little bit easier and to show some other functionality, I'm going to go to my links and just drag and drop those bill of material items into the mechanical components link here. So we'll say all. So that's linked. I can also drag and drop that other bill of material here. All and continue. So now what I'm doing is, just like I did in the previous project, I'm starting to build out the bill of information for this cordless Dremel tool. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. So there's other sets of information that I can also link to this project here, maybe another specification document. So just to show really quickly, I'm going to go to new, put a new file in, that's a spec doc, and then search for that and link it. So I'm going to choose the file, and we'll say this is the 510 specification document. I'm going to add a title here. Just do the part number. And then I'm going to change where this exists within Nexa. So again, right now it's defaulting to CMS files. So I'm going to drill down till I get to engineering and my specification class here where this is going to exist. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And so that's going to create that new file item. It's on my desktop. If I want, I could check this out again and drag and drop, but just to show the searching capabilities, I'm going to check this out again. And this time do a search for that specification document. So I'm going to add that link. We'll just search on that there. So I searched through all the classes, quickly found this document that exists, and I'm just going to add it. So again, I'm starting to build out the bill of information. I could have a much larger set of links and start creating that, but this is where I'm going to end on creating the links there. And I'm just going to go to the workflow now, and we're going to push this Dremel tool through a quick workflow. So I'm going to hit new here, go to workflow. And again, we're using that ECO that I had shown earlier. I'll go ahead and create that. So it's going to bring me to a form to where I can start listing out some information. So I'm going to leave the name as ECO 38. I'm going to give this a title, release cordless tool, maybe description. I'll, put in something simple, model 510. And then there's all sorts of different, properties that I have configured for my ECO form. So design authority, this is mechanical. I can start, assignees within the workflow. I can start assigning. So ones I'm going to focus on are changing configuration admin here, there, and then the project engineer. And then just for this demonstration, as there's many activities within the workflow, what we want to do here is just make this a fast release. So what you're going to see is as this is getting pushed through the workflow, I'm going to send it forward a couple times. And then at the end, you're going to see it just go through some activities and automatically release. So the last step here is linking those affected documents and those affected parts. So again, I can do the drag and drop, but I'm just going to search on them here and do 510 there. So the affected document is that assembly. The affected part here, same thing, just search on the part and add that link. So I have this set up. I'm going to hit save. And again, based on the earlier portion of this Nexa demonstration, if I go to my work tab now and my work list, I can see that ECO, since I'm the assignee, is in my work list. So before I get into this, I'm going to go to the process and just through the process viewer, look at where this currently stands, look at where it's going to be sent, and just get an overview of this workflow. So I can see currently it's in progress at the feasibility study. We're going to push this to design study, CM review, and at this point, that's where it's going to get pushed all the way to the mechanical release activity. And then those components are going to be at a release state. So in my work list here, I'm going to send this forward. Let's say my work is done. I'm going to send it forward again. So we're now at CM review. Just one last time, I'm going to take a look at this process. So as I'm going through here, I can see that it's completed the feasibility study. We're completed at the design study. Now the last is the CM review. So if I also want to, I can select on this. I can view the work instructions, the assignments, all the information that goes into this activity. But what I'm going to do now is just go back to this ECO and send it forward. And what you'll see is it's removed from my work list. This is done. And I can go to my desktop now and I can see, let's do a quick refresh. And this is the ECO. So if I go to the process again, I can view that process. And I can see that it's completed the mechanical release activity. So we'll close out there again, and might be a little slow on my machine, but so we're now at the in approval state. or status for these items. The ECO here. And again, if I want to go through and run a report on this ECO, I can go to this process, right click and do a report on this specific process, something like an audit trail report. So I can quickly run that search and I can see a report on that. So I can see, the activity name, the action, the completed date, the assignee for that activity, and then any comments that were on that ECO. So all sorts of things I can do with the ECO. And at this point, after this report, I believe this is where I'm going to go ahead and end it and pass it back over to Sarah, I believe, for some questions that might be out there.
Thank you, Hunter, Matt, and Bill for that presentation and demonstration. Do have a couple questions that came through the chat panel. I'll just read them off here now. Does ProductCenter Nexa come with workflow templates?
Yes, so I'll go ahead and take that. So yes, ProductCenter Nexa out of the box does come with a workflow, and with that workflow, you can kind of expand on it. You can take that workflow, build on it, create more workflows. You have something to start with within ProductCenter Nexa. You can kind of expand on the one that's provided.
Okay, thank you, Hunter. The demo showed the entire structure as released. Is that correct, or can you explain the benefit of that?
I'll take that one, Sarah. This is Bill. Yes, that is correct. And actually, that brings up a good point about ProductCenter Nexa. Out of the box, it comes with some configuration and release management rules built right in. So what Hunter demonstrated is that, releasing the top level assembly, should I be allowed to do that if some lower level subcomponents are not released? So typically we do not want that to be allowed. And out of the box with certain link types that are delivered, that is not allowed. It's enforced. So ProductCenter Nexa is very good at alerting you of that and also assisting you. Well, which subcomponents are released? Do you want to release them now? That type of thing. But we want to make sure that we're not releasing, parents before children. And there's also peer-to-peer links which don't enforce that necessarily. I can release the parent, and if it's some sort of another linked object might not need the release management integrity of that. I can release it or not. That's fine as well. So very good discussion point though when we implement, but out of the box, it helps us implement very quickly because these rules are already baked in. We don't have to sit there and think about it or program it or write software to make that happen. It's already out of the box.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Couple more here. Can I manage my AMLs with the purchased parts?
I can take that one too, Sarah. So if I understand the question correctly, AML, approved manufacturer list. Some people call it or have an AVL, approved vendor list, those types of things, but the answer is definitely yes on that one. So often you buy components from a manufacturer, you want to keep a record of who the manufacturer is, what parts they are selling you, what your part number is relative to their part number, and then, as again, getting back to this relationship and the bill of information, you might want to relate their part number to your part number to the actual manufacturer, right? And then enforce, again, release management rules. Should I be able to release my part if the vendor or the manufacturer is not approved yet in our system? So you can start to implement all of these rules, but the short answer is yes, and we see that quite often in our customer base.
Okay, thanks, Bill. And one more that's come through. Does Nexa have any solutions for taking my SolidWorks files from, say, EPDM to ProductCenter Nexa?
Yeah, I can take that one, Sarah. Yeah, we can absolutely do that. We've not migrated numerous clients from EPDM as a professional service, so that isn't a problem for us.
Okay, looks like that's all the questions we have. I'd like to thank everyone for joining today's webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us or visit us at essigplm.com. Thanks again and have a great day. Take care.